Some sort of weird glitch happened on the last episode when I uploaded it, and that
Oh,
well, it was nothing terrible. It was just like for whatever reason, there's like 20 minutes of dead audio at the end of it. That I mean, usually when that happens, there's like something that got left in the timeline or whatever. But I checked, I was like, no.
Listen all the way to the end and find a spooky backwards message or something?
Well, it was
James doesn't listen to our podcast when he edits it.
Well,
Don't be silly.
It was when I was uploading. I was like, wait a minute. In the timeline, it says it was this length, but on the file on the podcast feed is this length. Huh? That doesn't match. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like people will probably not.
It's just the end of the episode.
It's just a bunch of nothing at the end of the episode. So weird stuff happens. But anyway, so how was your wild, wacky adventure going? Back to Louisville by way of New York.
Yeah, so I had a fun air travel adventure on Sunday into Monday. So the Louisville airport canceled incoming flights for Sunday night, and I had an incoming flight. Well, I don't know if it was them in particular, but I think it was.
Was it weather related, or
I couldn't get out of Minneapolis. They claim it was weather related, though the website said it was like equipment, and I was upset. They didn't pay for my hotel or anything, which they usually do when it's their fault. But they were trying to pass it off that it wasn't their fault. But whatever. So I got a hotel in Minneapolis. They told me the website said they had a shuttle. They didn't have a shuttle, so I had to pay for a cab to get out there.
Wow.
So I was done by Sunday night, but I was okay with the flights I got for the next day, so that all worked out well enough. But every flight out of Minneapolis to Louisville was booked for Monday, so they had to get me on a flight at 8 p.m. out of LaGuardia in New York.
Jeez.
So, yeah, it took me the better part of 10 hours for an hour and a half flight.
Wow.
Lovely.
Let's see. So how long were you in New York?
I was all told probably like 4 hours.
Okay, so that was your layover?
Yeah.
I see.
It was only supposed to be a 2-hour layover.
Nice.
It didn't end up taking off until probably about 10 o'clock because of weather in New York.
Oh, sure.
Had you been to New York besides your layover?
Nope.
Well, now you can say you've been to New York.
I don't really count it because you didn't get out and see anything.
True. I suppose. There's probably things in New York worth seeing. I feel like I would never plan to go there as a destination.
I feel like I would only see sights if I was there for another reason,
like
and
a
had
work
extra
trip.
time.
Like a work trip is the only circumstance I could ever think of willingly going to New York. It's just not something I'm profoundly interested in, and it's not like, I'm hate New York or anything. It's just
anything that I could get in New York, I could probably get elsewhere.
For way cheaper.
For much cheaper.
I also think that the cultural glamour of New York City is
overdone.
a little overrated.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need a white I Heart New York t-shirt. I don't wear white t-shirts because they're awful to clean. So
My aunt lived in Connecticut for a time and sent us a bunch of those. So that's my every time I think of I Love New York t-shirts, it's like the really crazy faded ones we ended up using as wash rags eventually.
Besides, you don't want to wear that in New York because you'll be pegged for a tourist immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because nobody in New York wears an I Love New York t-shirt.
No. The Yankees ball cap, sure, that's basically the uniform. But yeah, no. Well, fortunately, I mean, yeah, you were able to get back without too much further trouble. But yeah, that was kind of wild.
Yeah.
Gosh, what happened up here? Oh, I got to go go to breakfast with our friend Josh on Saturday morning. That was fun. He and my brother Aaron and I went to the Frying Pan, and they talked about liturgy for 2 hours, which I should have expected with those two. I sat and mostly listened to it, but it was fun hanging out with them. I hadn't seen him in a while. Yeah, that was a good time. I had more to say about that, but shoot.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, it was fun to catch up with him again. Oh yeah, he was in town because his wife had the Trusted Sisters Women's Conference that the diocese was putting on. Thanks, Emma. You put that in my brain. Now I can't unthink it.
We're not going to take it anymore.
No. Listen up, Emma. We ain't taking it no more.
We know you're listening.
More cowbell.
Actually, we know she's not.
Yeah, pretty sure.
But nobody has been on the Apple Analytics forever.
Yeah.
But the bit is, when we reference somebody, we know you're listening because, of course, we know they're not.
Yeah.
Unless
I just don't like stealing that bit because it's not our bit.
Oh, sure.
True. But it's useful.
But it is useful.
I mean, that's pretty much all that's happened for me recently.
I mean, aside from just plugging away at homework and doing my job, I don't have a whole lot to say. Not a lot as interesting has happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, not a bad thing. Because honestly, if more interesting things happened to me, I would probably have more reasons to complain.
Yeah, that's fair. It's kind of that just plugging away time of year.
Well, we're about to get to spring break here, at least for
you,
anyway. College. Yeah.
For you,
for me. Did you just have one, or do you not get one?
I don't get one.
You don't get one? Oh,
poor
you.
Do they have spring break for college seminary?
Depends on the college seminary. For the most part, yes. Because they're generally run out of, colleges.
Yep.
Right.
So
no, I do plan to go visit some family over the weekends around spring break. I didn't get that week off of work, so I will be here during the week. But the weekend's bookending it. I plan to go visit people and steal my younger brother Isaac for a couple of days, hang out in Fargo a bit.
Mm-hmm. Should be a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're getting ready for the spring break at work too, and it'll be pretty extra quiet during those days because that doesn't really affect me.
Yep, the Facebook has got a must go on.
Yeah, I guess
the post must go on.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I've been enjoying the increased mimetic content of Bison Catholic lately.
Oh yeah. I gave Matt some kudos for that. That was he had some pretty funny ones in there.
I have not seen that, mostly because I don't pay attention to
well, and
Facebook
it's like relevant to the stuff he's trying to promote too. That's
right.
Part of it.
So that's good.
Just for Framer audibly looking up the Facebook page for Nathan's benefit.
Facebook for Nathan's benefit. That's not a thing that's often said.
Oh yeah. Me at the start of my holy hour. It's Michael Scott. Sometimes I'll start to pray and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way. There's that, and then I think another one was Ash Wednesday related. Oh yeah,
Panic.
Yeah. The panic calm panic meme man thing for Ash Wednesday. That was pretty good too. So I gave him some kudos for that.
It's funny, me and my DB were just talking about how we think Bison Catholic could improve their social media presence, just like last week.
Oh, really?
And without having mentioned anything to Matt or anything, he just starts doing something different. So,
yeah. And he's probably, part of the thing too is they've been moving into the new facility over the last month or so, and he's getting a new media studio and stuff set up in there. So that freaking jealous, but that's cool. He can play with this.
It's okay. Leave it behind you.
I
Don't
know,
have to go back.
I know.
I've left it behind. I finally washed my hands of that place.
Yeah, man. After all those times you cleaned the building and you're only just now washing your hands.
Shh.
But there is a big honking crane across the street in the parking lot.
They're gonna put a hat on the steeple.
They're gonna put the big hat on the church. The steeple is going up soonish within the next week or so. So that should be kind of cool to watch. Although arguably most of
it'll probably happen during the day while
I'm
at work.
working.
So you'll see the before and the after. Actually no. If it happens next week, I won't see it because I won't be walking to class.
Yeah. Somebody was
How
like,
goes progress on the church?
I mean, they've been installing like the storm windows by the look of things. So I imagine that as they finished up with like, I think from what I understand, the main thing they're waiting for is materials because you have all that marble and different things like that. So the interior doesn't look like much has happened with it yet. But
the outside's looking more and more complete.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we went to the first Knights of Columbus meeting at the new Newman Center, and I decided to wander around the offices. Because I'd gotten a tour, but before everything was furnished, so it was kind of fun. And I was like, "Oh, good to see some things never changed." Somebody left a pot of coffee on the burner that was starting to burn. You could smell it from halfway across the. And then I went over to turn off the burner. And Nathan was like, "Stop it, James! This isn't your problem anymore." It's like I can't help it. I gotta turn it off, or else it's just going to be encrusted at the bottom of the pot, and somebody will have to scrape that crap out. But
had to christen the new building somehow.
Yeah, that's true. I think we lost a couple of coffee pots to that back in the day, like just straight up shattered from being left on the burner too many times. I was like, who needs coffee at 7:00 in the evening?
Apparently somebody.
Old people.
Yeah, true. There was a time in my life where I could get away with drinking caffeine late and still being able to sleep. But that was probably just because of the level of exhaustion I was operating at. It's definitely at a point now where it's like, if I don't get enough sleep, my body will be like, okay, I'm just going to take this into my own hands and sleep longer than you wanted to the next day. It's like, I'm getting sleep one way or the other. So I just don't fight that battle anymore. Plus, I don't really have anything worth staying up for anymore. That doesn't stop me from doing it, but oh well. Such is c'est la vie. As it's like the French, they have a whole different language. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else at seminary going on?
Not particularly. We have priesthood promises on tomorrow,
Ooh.
so that should be interesting. The deacons that are going to be ordained
Transitional
this spring, summer, will be making their promises to make their promises.
I see.
So presumably after they've met with the bishop and declared their intention to be ordained a deacon.
Well, actually, this is required for the call to orders.
Okay.
So we did deacon promises a couple weeks back, and these are for the current deacons.
Okay.
So, but yes, you have to get this before the bishop can issue you a call to orders.
So these guys will be ordained priests this year?
Yes.
Cool.
Nice.
Are let's see. How many guys from seminary are being ordained this year?
The class is about 12 at mine, Miranda.
Sure.
Okay.
And they're kind of spread out here and there across different dioceses, I suppose.
Yep.
That's always cool, getting new priests in the church.
Need 'em.
Mm-hmm. Well, eventually this podcast will include a priest in the church. We're the Palladium Papists. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Riley.
And actually, speaking of religious leaders.
Oh, yeah, there we go. We're going to talk about the M. Night Shyamalan film Signs in our episode of Philosophical.
In a world where one man will decide whether to pull a lever and kill one man, or not pull a lever and allow 5 people to die, find out in Philosophical.
Yes, Philosophical, the show where we get philosophical references.
Brown-eyed girl.
So yes, the Shyamalan makes a return on the Palladian Papist. So Signs came out, I believe, what was it, 2002, something like that.
Yeah.
So it's starring Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix are the two main actors. So you have the Hess family. They live on a farm in Pennsylvania. Graham is Mel Gibson's character. He's a former Episcopal priest who lost. So like basically the U.S. version of Anglicanism is my understanding of it. He's
audibly nodding.
What's that?
Audibly nodding.
Oh, yep. So he's lost his faith after a traumatic experience of losing his wife, who was run over by a car while out on a run late at night or a walk or something. But
leaving behind 2 children.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a son and a daughter. The son has son Morgan has asthma, and his daughter has this thing. She's afraid of amoebas, so she constantly leaves unfinished glasses of water lying around.
Actually,
the house.
I think she gives different reasons for every glass of water she leaves out.
So but she doesn't finish her glasses of water, and she's constantly asking for a glass of water, so they're just all over the house. And his kind of trying to make his younger brother Merrill, played by Joaquin Phoenix, is also staying with them.
Just kind of
he's
bumming with them for a while.
He's bumming with them for a little bit. He used to be a minor league baseball star, but he never really made it to the majors because his batting average wasn't great. Although he set the record for home runs, but he also got a lot of outs. So he never really made it to the big leagues. So stuff kind of continues apace at the farm until they start encountering these crop circles in their cornfield. So, they're figuring it's probably somebody pulling some elaborate prank. And of course there's the people who are like, oh, it's probably aliens. But the animals in the town also start acting really strange. Even the family dog, the Hess family dog, tries to attack the kids, and Morgan is forced to defend his little sister by stabbing the thing with a grill fork. So that's kind of a traumatic experience. So somebody is watching their farm. They, on several occasions, see a tall, dark figure spying on them from the roof of their barn. So, Morgan Freeman. No, not Morgan Freeman. Where did that come from? Oh,
Morgan's the name of the son. So
yeah.
That's where Morgan came from. It is.
What is the name of that? Graham.
It's Mel Gibson.
Graham and Merrill try to chase after the figure, figuring it was some pranking kid or some stalker person. But the figure disappears into the cornfield, and they encounter yet another crop circle. They find out that similar crop circles have been popping up all over the world too quickly to be merely a grand, elaborate hoax. Try not to directly quote this synopsis, but anyway. So he starts listening to like a police scanner radio, and
people are getting freaked out.
Yeah.
Like he comes home from town one day, and Merrill and the 2 kids are wearing tinfoil hats.
Mm-hmm. And they're watching this rather creepy found footage from South America of this strange alien-looking creature outside of a birthday party. So yeah, they're debating what the heck is going on. They have an old baby monitor from when the youngest was little. And they start hearing they turn it on and start hearing weird noises from it that sounds like some creatures communicating. So yeah, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. So one evening they hear the dogs barking, and they go to the corn, and they hear the clicking and weird gobbly noises they were hearing on the baby monitor. So, and he's like, yeah, hey, if you he yells out, it's like, okay, whoever you are, I'm not gonna like call the cops on you if you just leave me and my family alone. Okay, we can talk about it. And then
they see something that clearly isn't human.
Yep.
Retreating into the corner, like, okay, let's get out of here.
He freaks out, runs back to the house, and then he tells them that turn on the TV. Something weird is happening, and they find out that there are weird ethereal lights that are appearing all over the world. So yeah, basically, it appears that some sort of alien invasion is afoot. So that night, they're kind of keeping up staying watch. Graham and Meryl are kind of talking about faith. At this point, it's revealed that like Graham has lost his faith in God because like he doesn't wear like his habit or anything like that, following the accident where his wife died. So one of the key quotes from this moment is like, there are two kinds of people: those who see signs, miracles, and those who see coincidences. Which kind are you? So there's the whole...
Meryl tells this hilarious story where he's like, oh, I believe in miracles. There was this one time I was at a party with a girl, and we were going to lean in for the kiss, and it was going to be so great, but then I realized, oh, my breath is awful. So I turn away to put a mint in my mouth, and I turn back, and she's thrown up all over herself.
I would have been traumatized. Like if I didn't grab that gum, I would have had a whole...
I'm a miracle man, he goes. So funny. So Meryl's a funny character.
Yeah. So
yeah, after
they start seeing footage of the alien, all over the place, and they find some newcomer, or they find some fellow townsfolk who are rather stunned and apparently have had some sort of encounter with the aliens. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, they don't like water, so they managed to trap one in a shed that's been abandoned, and accidentally cut his fingers off. Like this really kind of freaky encounter. So they need to decide what to do because these alien creatures are infiltrating the area. So they decide to stay in the house and try to hold down the fort. So yeah, they're boarding up the house and have their last family meal together. So they think, and then the baby monitor starts going off again. The dogs are barking, and then they abruptly stop. And so they're basically defending the house from shadowy figures, and eventually end up in the basement. At some point, Morgan gets grabbed by the alien. And apparently the aliens emit like this sort of toxic gas or something like that. So they notice that, in a flashback, Graham remembers his wife saying some rather strange things as she was dying, which the doctors just attributed to her brain kind of short-circuiting as she's slowly passing away. But one of the things she said was, just keep swinging. Or no, tell Meryl to just keep swinging. And so Meryl's prized bat is hanging on the wall, and there's all these glasses of water lying around the house. And the aliens don't like water, so Meryl starts whacking the alien with the bat and spilling water on him, which is apparently toxic to the alien. So he drops Morgan and runs out the house.
And Morgan, what they thought he had poisoned him with the alien poison gas, but he's also asthmatic.
Yeah, he's had an asthma attack, so he realized, oh wait, his lungs were closed. He didn't breathe in the gas, and they get him an inhaler and manage to revive him, and he is in fact okay. So these memories of his wife, giving basically from the grave instructions on how to survive. Graham has restored his faith in God once more, and in miracles, and he's resumed his life as the Episcopalian
after the
minister.
Aliens were driven back.
Yeah, apparently people figured out how to fight back against the aliens, and so the invasion was defeated. So later, Graham goes back to being a minister again and regaining his faith. So that's the halting synopsis brain fog James gave today. So have you seen Signs, Riley?
I have not.
No, we kind of gave away the twist, but I mean, it's. I think the movie's still worth watching just because of the execution of it being a Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, I think it's like it's a little bit of a weak twist because it's like our air is like 50% water or something like that.
Right.
So it's like doesn't quite hold up to intense scrutiny, but like on a but honestly, I kind of don't care. It's a pretty decent movie.
The film doesn't.
Like maybe it needs to be in enough concentration in liquid form to be
something
able
like
to.
that. I don't know.
Yeah. So I guess we could talk about some cool things about the film. The film actually does a pretty decent job of the concept. Yeah, it does. It's kind of an interesting meditation on faith and miracles from like a different angle than what you'd ordinarily expect.
Right. It's a more practical, human, modern angle from like something biblical
and
right?
things that commonly drive people from faith is like the loss of a loved one and being unable to cope with like why would God allow this, and it also manages to show how in some of the out of like pain and trauma like that, God can still bring good. Like,
and actually, there's several levels of like failure and pain in this family. There's the loss of his wife. There's his son's sickliness and asthma. There's Meryl's lack of success and not going anywhere or doing anything. So it's like there's several like ways where they feel like they've been abandoned. In a way.
But in the end, out of their weaknesses, they're able to overcome a great struggle, basically against the aliens, which I feel like if you wanted to look at it from like sort of a higher level, the aliens like just kind of generally represent unseen strife and difficulty in life, I suppose.
Just the unforeseen randomness of what life throws at you. Sure.
Because the aliens themselves,
and also things that you sort of can't really understand.
Right.
Because you don't really get a good look at the aliens till the end of the movie, and honestly, even though it's like one of like the driving antagonistic force in the movie, isn't really super important to the movie itself beyond how the family responds to the threat.
And I think that's the thing. This is a very character-focused film.
Yeah, it's not so much
the plot description didn't take us very long because not a lot really happens. It's more about these characters, their relationships with each other and with the world at large, and it takes its time to slow down and just let them hang out, let them discuss what they're thinking about or going through. There's some fun moments in there too. Yes, the kids are funny.
They're like watching the TV and like trying to like, oh, are these aliens? And so they're wearing tinfoil hats. And then their uncle Meryl comes in and he's like, what are you guys doing? And then they show him the footage of the alien in Brazil or whatever, and then Graham walks downstairs and they're all wearing tinfoil hats and looking. So he's like, okay, no more TV for you guys.
There was one bit where Meryl's all worried and he's talking with their dad about all the stuff that's going on, and they're listening to the radio about all the freaky things going on, and the kids are getting worried, and it's like the kids are getting worried, and so Meryl's like, don't worry, it's not that big a deal, it's just a bunch of nerd losers who can't get girlfriends playing a big hoax on everybody. And the little girl's like, why can't they get girlfriends? just the things kids
and then he like while the trouble is sort of brewing, there's people in the town who are like worried it's the end of the world or something, so he goes to like the store or something in town, and this teenager this teenager at the cash register is like starting to tell him her sins and stuff. He's like, I'm not a practicing minister anymore.
And besides, we don't even do that, do
right?
Except they do.
Oh, they
Some
do?
Episcopalians do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're Catholic basically through and through. They do like adoration and believe in stuff like mortal sin and all that. So
yeah, because
like,
at the end of the movie, he's wearing a habit not unlike a Catholic priest.
Sure.
So
you mean clerical attire, not a habit?
Yeah, clerical attire. Yeah, his clerics. But yeah, she's just like trying to say but not say all the swear words she's been saying, and he's just sort of standing there like, could you please check me out? But yeah, so there's some fun.
It's lighthearted in its characters and its story.
Yeah,
but it also doesn't shy away from the serious.
And it contrasts like the lighthearted moments. It contrasts heavily with like the tension, because like the whole sequence of the aliens breaking into the house is quite suspenseful.
I think in general this movie does a good job with like tension and release.
Yeah,
it's a suspense-ish film,
which Shyamalan has kind of pulled off in some of the other movies. Like we've talked about The Sixth Sense, if you want to go back to that.
Like there's the scene where they think there's somebody outside the house, and so Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix are like running around on opposite sides of the house trying to scare off who's ever there. And then they meet on the other side, and it's like, oh, there's nobody. And
they're like yelling, pretending to be the police or something, showing up.
Or like,
and it's like I said a curse word. He was
trying to yell and be scary, and like, you gotta curse, man. You gotta say swear words.
It's like,
and so it just like, came out as the most awkward thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny.
It's like, oh, you made me curse. But yeah, it's I don't know. All in all, like a good film. Full disclosure, I watched this like 10 years ago. So I tried to go off of memory. I'm like, well, this isn't working, but it's gradually coming back to me. One of these days I'll have to rewatch it. Ideally, we will, rewatch.
Wasn't that one of the ones we did as a movie night when we had first really gotten to know each other?
I only ever remember watching that once with my aunt.
Okay.
And when she came to visit us growing up.
Okay. Because there was a period of time in the early 10s where when we had moved into the area,
we watched Jurassic Park. No, that was years later.
We watched Jurassic Park. We watched Star Wars. We watched Rockies and stuff.
There was a bunch of films.
There was just a bunch of. That was just a period. Anyway.
Yeah.
Aside.
Yeah. So I guess without having seen it, what are your impressions generally, Riley?
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting little thing. I'd have to watch it to get a more thorough idea of...
It's definitely easier to appreciate watching it.
But my thoughts are just kind of like the interpretation of miracles. It's kind of an interesting thing because it's something you can do from a purely philosophical point of view. Mm-hmm. David Hume addresses miracles in one section of his treatise on human understanding, and he's critical of them because he's a skeptic in terms of his epistemology. But like there are principles that you can use to understand miracles as possible, and in Hume's world, when you follow to its logical consequence, in fact, miracles are entirely possible. You just shouldn't place much expectation that they are credible. But it could rain cats and dogs tomorrow as far as he's concerned.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, there's a philosophical way to approach miracles, and I'd like to see, more in depth how they treat that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of an interesting way to illustrate miracles and providence too, through the sort of Shyamalan formula of having all these different things set up through the movie, and then you have the twist at the end where it's all of these things serve a purpose.
Right. It's about how it comes together. Things were set in place for a purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just random bad things that happen.
And even the tragic death of his wife, which is causes Mel Gibson's character to lose his faith in the beginning.
Another great problem, the problem of evil.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How can God be all perfect, all good, and all knowing if he allows bad things to happen?
Mm-hmm. And that's that's really one of the biggest themes of the movie, I suppose. But out of that death, out of that loss, God is still able to bring good to the family and save them in distress and all that. And sort of recognizing that is what is Mel Gibson's character is able to do, to be able to come back from that and regain his faith. Especially because, like, considering, like, he was Episcopalian, like, minister, he was very serious about his faith, and, to that point had been living a great life. He had a good family and everything, but, the loss of his wife really kind of threw him off that track, and it took another great struggle to be able to kind of bring him back from that, which is honestly probably what happens for a lot of people in their lives. Like, like for my grandparents, for instance, when my grandfather passed away, my grandma didn't come back to the church until not long before she died. There was a few other things in there, but like the loss of a loved one can put someone rather violently face to face with the problem of evil and have difficulty, living
reconciling that with everything else that they know from their faith.
Mm-hmm. So like it's a good use. It's like a Shyamalan. I don't really know what his religious stance is, generally speaking, but it seems like he at least understands that much about crises of faith. And
I think he's some form of Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I don't know off the top of my head, but
yeah. But he at least possesses a certain level of understanding that allows him to explore these things so well in this movie. So, I guess if we don't have anything else want to talk about, we can get into...
I might have had more to say if, again, I had seen it more recently. But
yeah, that's...
And if I had seen it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a problem we need to...
Don't worry, we're going to do our homework.
Life.
We're going to do more homework. We have movies to watch and things to do. So, but at any rate, let's get into some transcendental analysis. So,
why not?
Truth. What are truths we can find in signs?
I think it's actually more.
There is no evil that God cannot bring. God does not allow evil unless He can bring good out of it. Is the core?
Yes.
Is the core takeaway?
The problem of evil doesn't have a nice, clean solution anywhere.
No,
it's a mystery.
In order to, it is a mystery. But one of the key things to remember about it is that if God prevented all suffering, the universe would no longer make sense.
Yep.
If He just miraculously intervened anytime anything bad was going to happen, nothing would be predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing would be intelligible, to the point that our lives basically wouldn't mean anything. And it's just random events happening with no causality whatsoever.
And also there's like the reason evil exists in the first place is to allow us is because we need to have free will, and you can't have free will if there's no choice to make. Mm-hmm. So if you can't choose
the
not
reason
God,
evil exists is because it was chosen by some individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's like the absence of good more than
to
the
be more
presence
precise.
Right. But if we didn't have the option to not choose not
Right.
God, we wouldn't have free will. So it's
That's
the whole
correct.
thing.
But yeah, that God allows bad things to happen, but that He also, it's not like everything, like things always go bad. Like, in the movie, like, the tragedy of losing his wife, but then all through these other small miracles, He's able to preserve his family through
There
another
is a
trial.
plan to have faith in.
Yep. So it's not all just chaos and sadness.
And it won't make sense until after the fact, when you're like, oh, it lines up now. And may not even make complete sense after the fact. It just, you allow Him to work in your life.
Yep. Pretty much. And, Mel Gibson's character is kind of forced to do that on a certain level, but then like he willingly chooses to return to that, to his faith afterwards too. Because
you can always come back.
Yeah. And that's kind of the other thing too, is that God will use tragedies and different struggles in life to kind of show you He still loves you. So that's kind of like the defending their house from the aliens struggle kind of, and like the ways, like his daughter's quirk about leaving glasses of water around the house, or like his wife's dying words about keep swinging, or his son, even the hardship of his son's asthma keeps him from breathing in the toxic gas. So So yeah, all these small ways in which Providence, like God still shows Mel Gibson's character that he loves him
and will provide for it,
and will provide. Yeah, sort of allows him to regain his faith that way. So
that's like the big major themes of truth in this movie. It's kind of obvious and maybe a little too on the nose, but honestly, it's all right. It's good.
So goodness, I think overall is probably like the family dynamics are really good in this movie.
Yes. Despite his falling away from the faith and stuff, Mel Gibson's character is a father who puts his family above everything else. And wasn't he... And when they were deciding to leave, when they were taking like the vote to either stay at the house and defend it or leave,
or like go to like a lake home or something where there's water.
He was the one that wanted to leave and take his family with him, right?
I think so. Well,
but
oh no, he yeah, I think it doesn't. Yeah, the summary doesn't say it, and I don't remember. But yeah, they they have to choose as a family what they're going to decide to do, and then work together to accomplish that outcome. And even though Graham is the older brother, and he is sort of teaching Meryl some things. At one point in the movie, Meryl sort of comes back at his older brother, like, "Hey, like the fact I don't want you to lose your I hate the fact that you've lost your faith like this, and I don't ever want to see you look scared like you did in the basement when we were fighting the aliens." So like sort of holding his brother accountable. I'm like, "Hey, you're the head of this family. You need to maintain your strength and composure, and also like that's kind of the thing when." I'm purely speculating here, but sort of the father figure also needs to maintain his faith for the sake of his family as the example he leads for them. Like, in Graham's case, he's a minister as well. Like he was at one point the head of a
in a community.
In a community,
so he's not only the head of his family, but the head of his community and faith.
Yep. So yeah, but yeah, he's it's shown through the film that like he's a loving father and older brother too, and he very deeply loved his wife, who very deeply loved him, and so they were sad to be parted, but
family. That's the goodness. It's the family.
Yeah, it's family. So that's the main elements of goodness in it, and it's a happy ending too.
Yeah, all
things considered. Beauty. The pacing and the storytelling, they're really good in the movie.
Yeah, not a whole bunch of like plot points happen.
Yeah,
but the way they're spaced out, there's like it has a lot of breathing room, and it just kind of unfolds.
And it sort of takes a page out of the Jaws book in that the threat, the threat of the monster is like the tension and suspense that comes from that is through not being able to see the threat clearly. And I suppose that's sort of another symbol. I mean, the movie's called Signs after all.
That's Unity. Wait.
Yeah. We'll do that later. But yeah, like the sort of the absence or like not being able to see the monster that's threatening you clearly sort of builds the tension.
That's also that's a common monster movie type of thing. Like you mentioned Jaws or like Alien or Predator. Predator stays like invisible literally for most of the movie actually, right. And then masked for most of that afterwards.
Yeah, and you have so the monster unmasking at the end when they're fighting it in the living room during the daytime now. I suppose there's some symbology behind that because like once you can see the monster clearly, it's like you're able to deal with it. Bringing the troubles to the light of day and all that.
Well, in general, like at the end of the movie of most like monster type movies, it's not until the end of the movie that they know how to fight it.
Yep.
And that's when you're allowed to see it clearly, when they have a distinct goal to defeat it.
Yep.
Or a clear path.
Yeah.
So it's like the fear of the unknown is kind of the common theme with those kind of monster movies, right? Mm-hmm. And so, it's a technique. It's a very common one.
And for the time, like I remember when I was watching, not being like super impressed with the alien, but maybe that was like like it wasn't like
for as little as it
graphically
shows
stunning.
up, it'll probably hold up just fine.
Yeah, no, it serves the purpose through the movie, and maybe the fact that the alien isn't like super convincing on screen is like kind of serves the artistic purpose we were talking about. Is like when you can see evil threatened strife like in the light of day, it's not glamorous or anything like that. But yeah, it for the time, the movie came out in like 2002 or whatever. So I mean,
Lord of the Rings came out in 2002. There's some good CGI in the time.
It's a product of its time, yeah. Overall well executed film, I'd say.
Yeah, the dialogue is very human and natural feeling.
It never really felt too slow,
but it isn't afraid to take its time.
Yep. So everything held together. There weren't really any wasted moments. So overall well executed film. So I guess that brings us to Unity. So yeah, a sign. It's sort of an interesting, wordplay going on there.
On the one hand, you've got like the crop circles and the lights and the messages in the speakers, and it's signs of otherworldly life.
Yeah, signs and wonders of like the apocalypse or something, like a great threat coming down, but also signs as symbols. Like there's also the more positive understanding of signs, like signs from God, that are meant to guide us throughout life. So like being his kid's quirkiness, or like the dying words of his wife. But ultimately, signs in the divine sense are meant to point us towards God in a rather like simple way of looking at it. But I mean, that's really what they're for. Like God will only, I feel like this, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but God will only place miracles in our lives if they serve to bring us closer to Him.
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
So all of the little miracles that happen throughout the movie, these signs and wonders lead, Graham back to God by the end of the movie. So yeah, science is kind of the unifying principle here.
Yeah, it works on a number of levels. Mm-hmm. It's really a clever title for it.
So it's good, pretty solid film.
Yeah.
Can recommend.
Yeah.
Any further comments?
Nope.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for listening to the Palladian Papists. You can listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, and leave a rating on the platforms to let us know what you think of the show. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Pal Papists. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns about how long it took me to get through that synopsis with the dead pauses, or complaints or suggestions for future episodes, email us at palladianpapists@gmail.com. We will talk to you guys again in the next episode. I would say that's good. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.